Every news outlet on Earth is seemingly tripping over themselves to cover the amazing story that Microsoft has taken the axe and laid off their entire DEI staff. Every person related to diversity, equity, and inclusion has been let go. Many new articles and YouTubers and TV shows, they're starting to proclaim it from the rooftops. There's just one teeny tiny eensy weensy problem with this story. It's false. I mean, it's based on a little bit of a real thing that happened, but the whole every DEI person was let go thing is completely untrue. In fact, what it really is that a small fraction of the DEI focused employees at Microsoft were laid off, but the company not only has many more DEI staffers, but they are redoubling their efforts to stay committed to their DEI-focused policies. Yeah, that's the real story. I published this article yesterday over in the Lunduke Journal. You can go read it at lunduke.locals.com. And I'm going to read it to you now because this news apparently needs to be corrected because this false story is flooding around the world way too fast right now. As first reported by Business Insider, the Lunduke Journal has confirmed that Microsoft has laid off multiple staff members focused on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. However, the Lunduke Journal has also learned from multiple sources that these layoffs only represent a small portion of the DEI-focused staff, and that the company will continue to focus on DEI issues and hiring going forward. One Microsoft DEI lead stated in an internal email seen by several thousand Microsoft employees that their, quote, role and team were eliminated due to changing business needs as of July 1st, 2024. That DEI lead went on to say, unofficially, in my opinion, not specific to Microsoft alone, but Project 2025 looms, and true systems change work associated with DEI programs everywhere are no longer business critical or smart as they were in 2020. Hence the purposeful and strategic 3 to 5 year shelf life of many companies' inclusion commitments post the murder of George Floyd are being reevaluated. And the way I see it, the timing was impeccable, so businesses everywhere could reevaluate the path forward should their U.S. federal contracts be at risk if the work continues on its face, end quote. Now, the same DEI lead that sent out that email also accused Microsoft leadership of, quote, discrimination, harassment, and toxicity, whatever that means, directed towards the DEI team itself. The details of that discrimination and harassment and toxicity remain totally unclear and vague, and I couldn't get anyone at Microsoft to tell me what that might possibly mean because no one seems to know. Now, there are many questions surrounding these layoffs. How many employees are involved? And perhaps even more importantly, what does this mean for Microsoft's overall DEI policies? Now, this is the Lunduke Journal. We check on everything, we verify everything, and we reached out to several contacts at Microsoft. And speaking to one Microsoft whistleblower, the Lunduke Journal was told, quote, this layoff is just one head on the Hydra. Every team has DEI promoters. The whistleblower goes on to say, quote, DEI is everywhere. Now, multiple Microsoft sources made it clear that the majority of DEI-focused Microsoft employees remained in their roles, and that these layoffs, whatever their total number, which remains completely unknown as of this moment, represents a small portion of the total DEI initiative within the company. Yeah. Let's go this further. Okay, so this is only a small fraction of their DEI employees, and that's just the start of it. Microsoft appears just as focused on diversity and inclusivity as they ever have. From an official statement from a Microsoft spokesperson, quote, our D&I commitments remained unchanged. Our focus on diversity and inclusion is unwavering, and we are holding firm on our expectations, prioritizing accountability, and continuing to focus on this work, end quote. Interesting note that the DEI was changed in that statement, becoming simply D and I. The equity, the E part, was dropped from in between the diversity and in the inclusivity. Now, whether or not that was a simple slip, or an indication of future Microsoft policy changes is not yet clear. However, it's worth noting that many companies are in fact rebranding DEI as simply D&I. We'll see where this goes as far as Microsoft is concerned. They haven't made an official statement about dropping the equity portion of it. Regardless, it appears that this small round of DEI layoffs does not indicate any significant shift away from DEI policies and back to meritocracy for this tech giant. On a potentially related note, Microsoft appears to be continuing to encourage employees to gender transition their children, including toddlers as young as 3 years old, as first exposed thanks to Microsoft whistleblowers earlier this year. If you have not read about that, it is crazy. The Lunduke Journal broke this with massive amounts of proof, full documents, backed up every which way from Sunday. Microsoft is not denying an ounce of this, and companies that Microsoft hired to create the documents that they use to encourage people to gender transition 3-year-olds has been confirmed that Microsoft did indeed pay for it. It is 100% real. There's not even a little bit of speculation there. It is insane that this is happening. Go read that. It's crazy. But back to this. Considering the ongoing lawsuits against Microsoft, or against IBM and Red Hat because of the illegal implementation of DEI policies within those companies. You'll note that IBM is being sued by a state government, and Red Hat is being sued by a former employee. So I mean, things are not looking good there. One has to wonder how long before Microsoft either drops these illegal and ethically dubious DEI policies or faces lawsuits of their own. I mean, it's a fair question. In fact, was this an attempt by Microsoft to maybe hedge their bets a little bit, to maybe hopefully divert away from the potential of future lawsuits like what is happening with some of their competitors like IBM and Red Hat? I'm not sure. I'm not certain. The motivating factors behind this small layoff, and it was a very small layoff, remain unstated. Microsoft has not stated exactly why they chose to lay off this particular team. Just the same, Microsoft, again, I need to repeat this, most of the Microsoft DEI-focused staff throughout the entire company remains employed, and they are focused, according to official Microsoft representatives and whistleblowers inside the company, on DEI initiatives. In fact, one Microsoft whistleblower described it as a hydra. And you all know what a hydra is. You chop off the head, one of the heads of the hydra, and two grows back in its place. Ugh, that's descriptive. That's descriptive. Now, I want to say this flat out. The Lunduke Journal would not be able to do this reporting were it not for all of you. All of the individuals that work at big tech companies, the whistleblowers, the leakers who provide this information to the Lunduke Journal, which we then publish anonymously. We never give up our sources, ever. Not for Red Hat, not for IBM, or any of the massive leaks that we've done in the past. But we want to thank all of you for working with the Lunduke Journal to make sure this information, correct information, gets out there to the people at large. If you would like to follow a guide, go to lunduke.com, and there's a little link there that says Lunduke Journal Link Central. Click on that link, and right near the top, there's a guide on how to leak and be a whistleblower anonymously whilst keeping your information private. Anything you want to the Lunduke Journal. How to send large files anonymously and securely and privately, how to get an anonymous email account, all of it. I walk you through all of the details. So if you'd like to become a whistleblower, follow that guide, reach out to the Lunduke Journal, either anonymously or using your private email. Whatever you do, don't use your work email address. Just don't use your work email address. If you need to use a private email, that's fine. If you want to use an anonymous email, also great. Just not your work email address. Get a hold of us, and we can walk you through that process as well. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, before we go, if you see people out there, and there are a lot of very well-intentioned, very excellent reporters covering this story right now, But if you see any of them talking about how Microsoft just laid off their entire DEI team and they're moving away from DEI, could you please send them this article or this podcast or this video or something? Direct them to me. Because it is important that we get these stories correct. As exciting as it is to report that Microsoft may be moving back to a pure meritocracy, and as great as I think that would be for the tech industry and for Microsoft specifically, we need to actually report the truth. And the truth is that's not happening right now. That's not happening at all. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare end broadcast.